What is going on, everyone? This is Nero again, and today I have another episode of the Field Manual, a series I'm running on my channel, which is basically, a weapons guide, a field manual, if you will, going over every primary weapon, or at least I'm going to try to get every primary weapon done here in MW3, to basically help you guys out with the gun in-game, go over in-game statistics, how the gun handles, fire rates, reload times, damages, close range and long range, things like that, as well as a little background history on the gun here in real life, which is, why I believe to be one of the more fun parts about the guns here in Call of Duty is the fact that, all the history behind the weapons that are here. So we're kind of just going to hop right on into this, and, for me personally, I wondered this for the longest time, is what does SCAR stand for? In Modern 2 you have the SCAR H, here in Modern 3 you have the SCAR L. What does SCAR stand for? SCAR actually stands for Special Combat Assault Rifle, and that can kind of be related. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. It kind of be related to the SPAS, which stands for Special Purpose Assault Shotgun. So when you see a gun in game, something like the SCAR or the SPAS or things like that that just have like what seem like apparently random letters put together, they actually stand for something, which I actually find that interesting. And a lot of guns are actually like that. But, like I said, there are actually two versions of the SCAR. The SCAR actually is a family of only two for some reason, but it is still nonetheless a weapon family. In this family, you have the SCAR L, or SCAR Light, which you see here in Modern Warfare 3, and then you have the SCAR H, which stands for SCAR Heavy, which you guys may remember from Modern Warfare 2. Now, there's a couple differences between the SCAR L and the SCAR H, the biggest factor being the cartridge size. The SCAR L actually runs on a 5.56 by 45mm round, and it feeds an improved M16 style magazine, whereas the SCAR H runs on a 7.62 by 51mm round magazine, and it has a special magazine that's basically only 20 rounds, whereas here with the SCAR L you have 30 rounds. So the SCAR family was designed here in the United States. It's actually an American weapon, which you don't see a lot, really. I mean, you have your standard M16 and your M4A1, but you don't actually see a lot of American weapons here in the Call of Duty series. But this is an American weapon, and it was designed in 2007 for the United States Special Operations Command, otherwise known as the SOCOM. And eventually it was shipped out to forces in 2009. But back to the SOCOM, when, if you think about, especially for you PlayStation 3 players, you are very familiar with the SOCOM game itself. You're very familiar with the SOCOM forces, and this is actually one of the primary weapons for the SOCOM forces. It is used day in and day out. It's being used right now. As you're watching this video right now, there are SOCOM forces equipped with this weapon. And then that's how comfortable these people are with this gun. That's how good this weapon actually performs when battle tested out there in the field. So it's not just the SOCOM forces. The SCAR L is actually used in a lot of different parts of the United States military. The United States 75th Ranger Regiment was actually the first large unit to be deployed with the SCAR, thus why these weapons have been introduced to us here in Call of Duty. Now, you guys may remember, back to Modern Warfare 2 again, I keep going back to that game, I'm not sure why, but back in Modern Warfare 2, the Rangers were actually a gigantic part of the campaign. They were also a big part of the multiplayer. You could run as the Ranger faction, as well as the Spetsnaz and the Navy SEALs. But one of the bigger parts was the 75th Ranger Regiment, which, like I said, was the first large unit to be deployed with the SCAR, and that's why all these weapons have been introduced into Call of Duty. Infinity Ward decided, basically, that when they introduced the Ranger Regiment into the campaign, obviously did the research on the Ranger Regiment, and knowing that the Rangers, a lot of them actually are equipped here with the SCAR L and the SCAR H, for example. They decided it'd be a good thing to put this in the Call of Duty, which, I do believe is a good thing to put in the Call of Duty. But here's my question, and I can't find any answers on this, and it really doesn't make sense to me, but I do have a theory towards it. What made them go from the SCAR H in Modern Warfare 2 to decide to give us the SCAR L here in Modern Warfare 3? Personally, I think it's just for weapon variety. I mean, there are a couple subtle differences, but mainly it's with the magazine. The magazine on the SCAR L looks and functions a lot like an M16 style magazine, whereas it's also a 30-round clip, whereas the SCAR H is it's a 20-round magazine. So it's a little bit smaller, but the SCAR H itself, there's kind of two versions of the SCAR H. It's you have your battle rifle style thing, which like you would see back in Modern Warfare 2, whereas there's also like a light machine gun variant like you're gonna see in Battlefield. So I think they went to the SCAR just for variety and to make the SCAR a little bit cooler. I mean, it's a little weaker here in Modern Warfare 3, but I do definitely enjoy the fact that it has a 30-round magazine instead of the 20, because that 20-round magazine is just, pardon my French, but it kicked my ass in Modern Warfare 2. I mean, having to reload constantly, and basically requiring scavenger on the weapon itself, and so having a 30-round magazine, having that extra ammo, definitely helps out this weapon a lot. But now we're going to be talking a little bit more about the gun here in real life before I get into the in-game stats, because the in-game stats with this gun are actually really eye-opening. But the Scar L is a gas-operated rifle, and in-game, not in real life, but in-game, it feeds 750 rounds per minute, making it one of the slower fire rates of any assault rifle here in Modern Warfare 3. Now here's your real interesting fact about the Scar L in Modern Warfare 3. It is the worst assault rifle in the game. Now you may be wondering, what the hell is he talking about? Statistically, on paper, the Scar L is the worst assault rifle here in Modern Warfare 3. It has one of the slowest fire rates of any assault rifle. Only the CM901, the ACR, the AK-47, and the MK-14 have slower fire rates than the Scar L here in Modern Warfare 3. Now you can't even really bring the MK-14 into the question because it's not a fully automatic assault rifle. It's not fair to judge it in terms of fire rate as with all the other assault rifles that are fully automatic. So in terms of fire rate, it's one of the worst in the game. It gets worse than that. In terms of close range damage, how many damage per bullet at a close to a medium range encounter, the Scar L only does 35 damage per bullet close range. That is horrendous. You may think that sounds alright because that's like a 2 to 3 shot kill. That is horrendous compared to any other assault rifle with the exception of the FAD. The FAD is the worst assault rifle at close range, but it can make up for that just because because the FAD shoots 1,000 bullets per minute, whereas the Scar L only shoots 750 bullets per minute. So if you compensate the fire rates between the FAD and the Scar, I would definitely take an FAD close range than I would take a Scar. So it's basically the worst close range assault rifle in the game. And it gets worse, guys, it gets worse. Long range, the Scar L only does 20 damage per bullet, which is tied for worst with the M4A1 and the Type 95 for worst damage per bullet at long range. So if you think about it, it's got one of the slowest fire rates of any assault rifle. It's got the worst close range damage of any assault rifle, as well as it's terrible long range as well. It's actually one of the worst rifles in the game, but that's on paper, guys. If you think about it, battle tested on the field, the Scar is actually a good gun. It can if used properly, you could get games like this, which by no means this was an eye-opening game or a ridiculous game, but it is a good gun, guys. You can use it pretty properly, but this gameplay is actually wrapping up pretty quickly. I do recommend you actually use this gun though, because on paper it's bad, but when you do well with it, it definitely makes the game that much better and that much more rewarding just because you got a good game with it. So I hope you guys all enjoyed this field manual, and stick around for the next one.